You know what? I'm about to say it.
Say it.
The Rings of Akhaten is a masterpiece. Right, so let me just start this by saying that The Rings of Akhaten is my second favourite Doctor Who episode ever, beaten only by The Doctor's Wife, and both of them I reckon are just on another level. But what I've noticed is people not only don't consider it one of the best episodes ever, which is fair enough, like not every episode that you like is going to be someone else's favourite episode, but people actively just hate this episode, and I genuinely don't get why. Like, there's nothing controversial in it. There's nothing you could look at and be offended by or feel like it's attacking you, so I don't get where the hatred comes from. At most, I'd think, oh yeah, I can understand why you might think it's forgettable or average, but to think it's the worst ever, like ever, in the entire, including classic Doctor Who, so not just the bad episodes of the modern series. Like, you've seen The Edge of Destruction, and you're saying The Rings of Akhaten is worse than that. Come on. If you think The Rings of Akhaten's that bad, then...
Just shows who you are. Just shows what you're about. You little fat weasel. There's nothing about you. You haven't got a model in your body.
No, but in all seriousness though, it just isn't that bad. And I would go as far as to say that it is a masterpiece. It's a powerful story about the power of stories. It doesn't get much better than that. The whole episode is based around stories. The stories Clara grew up with. The stories Mary grew up with. The history of Akhaten. The history of Clara. It's all linked together. And it comes full circle at the end when the stories of Akhaten aren't enough to satisfy the parasite anymore. And it's up to the Doctor and Clara to stop it. And that's just amazing. The way Clara basically blew into the world on a leaf that caused the parents to meet and everything. That is top tier. I cannot think of a companion's backstory that's more wonderful than that. And people like to hate on Series 7 in general. Like, it's not the best series ever, but it's not as bad as people make out. But genuinely, this episode catches the same fairy tale feel and wonder that Series 5 had, in the best way possible. And yeah, people love Series 5, and this episode remains one of the most underrated episodes ever. I just don't get it. It's so good, and people just don't see it. Not to mention the music. As the Doctor said, music is just stories, so even the score for the episode links back into the themes of the episode, and Murray Gold linked it masterfully. The score for this episode is not only one of my favourites from Doctor Who, but it's one of my favourites of all time. It is absolutely masterful, and every time I hear it makes me want to cry. It's that good. The presence of the score is felt throughout the episode, and it's just amazing. Even the Doctor's speech, which is fantastically written, one of the best speeches in the entire show, but that score makes it even better. And not only that, it's just really well acted. People like to say, oh, child actors are bad and that, and yeah, some are. But the girl who plays Mary isn't a bad child actor. She's great throughout this episode. From the very first time you meet her at the start with Clara, right to the very end, I'd happily say that she is one of the best parts of this episode. And that says a lot considering who she's working alongside. I mean, to be a child and to be able to hold yourself against Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman, that must take a lot of skill, and she done it seamlessly. She is so good in this episode, and yet people still say she's a bad child actress. Like, I don't get it. I've just watched the episode now, and I had absolutely no problems with the way she was acting. It was a realistic performance. It was well done. Like, it evoked actual emotion. She couldn't have done a better job. I'm telling you now. I think she done the best performance she could, and that performance was really good. As for everyone else, like I said, Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman are two of the best actors working today, and in this episode they are on absolutely top form throughout. Like, they are just good, you can't fault them. Jenna brings such an energy to Clara in this episode, it's amazing. Like, you really feel, again, that vibe that you got in Series 5 where everything's new and everything's exciting. She brings that back to this series in this episode, and I'd go as far as to say this is her best episode in the entire show. She is on top form throughout. You get a good backstory for her, you get emotional moments with her, she has good chemistry with the rest of the cast. This is peak Clara Oswald. And I don't get why people don't like her. Like, people love to hate on Clara, And fair enough, she's not the most consistent companion, but she's not bad by any means, and it's episodes like this that show that. Jenna Coleman is absolutely fantastic and always gives 100%, and because of that, Clara is always fantastic. Regardless of what you think of the episode, Clara is guaranteed to always be good in it, and this episode's no exception, because this is the best Clara that we see, I feel. And if you think she's bad in this episode, then I don't know what to tell you other than...
I don't know. I think that's a bit dodgy, mate.
Another thing that helps to add to the sense of wonder and the fairy tale nature of this episode is Clara's book. She's someone who's always wanted to go travelling around the world, and she's now being offered the universe. And I don't see how you can't be excited about that. Like watching Clara's excitement as she races around Akhaten, through the marketplace, discovering the culture of the world, seeing how they buy things, learning that the doctor has a granddaughter, stuff like that. Like, it's just amazing. Like, how can you not love it? I just don't get it. There's so many people who think this episode's bad, and it's just not. I get that everything's subjective, but you can't think this episode's the worst episode of Doctor Who ever. Surely not. I'd accept average, I'd accept forgettable, but to actually hate it when there's so much to love, even one thing to love: the costumes, the sets, the performances, the music, the cinematography. There's so much going on, there's so much to love. Even if you don't like it all and you just think it's average, there's always something to love. So to hate the entire episode, to think there's no redeeming qualities, I don't get it at all. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. Like, you don't have to agree with any of the points I've made here. You could watch this video back and your reaction's just. And that's absolutely okay. And you know what? I'll be fair. Some negative criticisms of the episode. Let's get into them. I'm about 90% sure they defiled the Hoix mask to make this alien. So yeah, I love the Rings of Akhaten, and if I'm being honest, I do think more people should. It's one of the most underrated episodes of the entire show. And in the words of the 11th Doctor in this very episode, it's a nice story. And that's what I like about it. It's a nice story. It's a good story. It's a story about stories. And it's amazing. Again, you don't have to agree with me. I'm not trying to change your mind. I just think it's a very overlooked story, and I wanted to give it some more positive attention. So, I hope you liked this video, and I'll see you next time on Shibogen Who.